Hi everyone, I'm Megan and this is Beguiled by Books, a community of book lovers and word nerds. Today I'm sharing how you can ditch your TBR in favor of more exciting reading challenges. Let's get started. This video is all about unique ways of ditching the traditional TBR and diving into your unread pile of books with a new and renewed sense of excitement. But before you do that, there might be a bunch of books that you want to read and you know you're just not going to, probably because they're maybe a little boring, maybe a little nonfiction-y. But guess what? I've taken the best of the best self-help and self-discovery and self-improvement books, read them all, distilled it down into 15 of the absolute best books you can read. And I've done the work for you by reading the books, explaining what you need to take away, and giving you all the tools and worksheets to apply the knowledge yourself. If that's interesting to you, go sign up for the Growth Library course, link in the description or the pinned comment below. I will see you over there. Now, let's talk about our TBR piles. Your TBR list is supposed to inspire you. But if you're like me, that list gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's kind of a beast and a monster unto itself. And there's too many things, there's too many choices. Heaven forbid there are too many books. Yes, I said it. Sometimes it can happen. It's true. We can have too many books. When it gets that big, the less joy we find in finding our next read. It's overwhelming. It's overstimulating. It's a lot going on. Suddenly, reading feels like homework instead of novelty and discovery. So, how can we get around those feelings? What we're going to do is we're going to ditch our TBRs altogether and we're going to do some new challenges so that reading feels like an adventure, not like a chore. First, I recommend some thematic challenges and not themes the way you think of themes in a book, but a themed challenge. I recommend a rainbow reading challenge, not reading rainbow, although I do love reading rainbow in LeVar Burton, but a rainbow reading challenge where you choose a book based on its cover color in the order of the rainbow. So you pick a red cover book, an orange cover book, a yellow cover book, so on and so on. It mixes up your variety, it mixes up your genres, and it will help find that joy and that novelty because you're just going on a color, literally picking a book based on a cover and reading it from there. You might read something holiday themed with a blue cover. You might read a nonfiction with a yellow cover. The choices are open and pretty much limitless, and it gives you a new spin on being able to choose your next book. Another thematic challenge I recommend is a decade dive. So pick a decade from our past that's interesting to you and read books published in that decade. Important note, not books that take place in that decade, but books that were published in that decade. Why? Because you're likely going to pick up books you otherwise would not have picked up. The era in which you choose to read a book is really telling of what was acceptable and what was going on in that time and in that decade. So if you read a book published in the 1980s, it's going to read very differently than, say, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which was published in 2025 but takes place in the 80s. Very different approaches to the book. So check out a book published in a designated decade and see how that compares to current books and let me know what hidden gems you find. Another great reading challenge theme that you can do is around the world. So pick a different country for every month and each month read a book that was written by an author from that country or takes place in that country. The Story Graph does an amazing around the world challenge every year, and there are some books that I've found that I never would have found otherwise had it not been for that challenge. It gives you a little bit of a push to search for books that you might not normally search. I probably would never have read some books from Africa or South America had it not been for this type of challenge. And it opens your world to great cultural stories and things that might inspire you in new and exciting ways. So if you do an around the world challenge, I would love to know what you think because I think they're super fun and they stretch you in all the best ways. If you're looking for something a little more interactive with your reading rather than just a solitary challenge, there are a few interactive challenges that we can do as well. First, we're all probably familiar with a blind date with a book. Go into your local bookstore and see if they have any of these available. Usually they're going to be wrapped in a very neutral cover like butcher paper and have 3 to 5 descriptive words on there that give you a slight overview or a genre about the book. And then from there, it's all a surprise. It makes it easier to A, get out of the house, try something new, go somewhere new. It challenges you in terms of finding something that you don't know what you're getting into. You can't read the blurbs, you can't read the summary, you can't read the first chapter right there in the bookstore and decide if you're going to like it. It pushes you to read something outside of your comfort zone ever so slightly. If you're interested in something outside of your comfort zone, also check out my newly released products. Weekend Reader Challenges, and we have one that is beyond your comfort zone if you're interested. So check that out. I'll put the link in the description and the pinned comment below. The blind date with a book is really simple, really classic, and almost everyone has seen one. So if you've never done it, but maybe you've been interested or maybe you didn't have the best luck, try it again, see what happens, and you can always give your book to a friend or pop it in a little free library if it ends up not being for you. Another interactive challenge is a reader's bingo card. I have several of these challenges over on my website. You can go check those out. Links are in other videos, which I will share below. And the bingos are really fun because you can screenshot or you can take pictures of your bingo card. You can share it online with other readers. You can tag the creator of these bingo challenges. Hi, at Beguiled by Books, happy to help. But it's really fun and it gets other people involved. You don't even have to do it on social media. You can share it with a friend and you can do this together. And maybe whoever gets to bingo first has to buy the other one coffee or lunch or some sort of fun incentive like that. So I hope you try a bingo challenge. It's really enjoyable. Another really great interactive challenge is a book swap bonanza. You know, I love alliteration, but get together with a group of friends or even complete strangers at your local bookstore and just swap books. Try it if you like this, like that kind of thing. And you'll never know what friends you might make. If you don't want to make friends, you'll still find some good books along the way. And it's a great way to open your world to books you may not have otherwise read. Another great way to ditch the traditional TBR is through skill building challenges. Now, what does that mean? It's not all nonfiction and the growth library type of challenges. You can do that in my course. Again, link below. Don't forget to go sign up. A skill building challenge to ditch your TBR is something along the lines of like an author deep dive. Let's say you've read one book by Sarah J. Maas, and you decide you want to read everything Sarah J. Maas has written. Well, you've got 15 other books you can read. That's amazing. Try diving into that world. Same kind of concept, but different author would be like V.E. Schwab. A lot of different genre variety. She writes YA, she writes kind of horror, fantasy, lot of different elements there for that author. Really fun to explore that author's body of work. Matt Haig is another one. You might have loved The Midnight Library, but did you know Matt Haig has several other books he's written? Read all of his works and see what you think. It's really fun when you start reading the works of a single author and you read all of them because you can see how they grow and change and evolve from book to book, how their writing styles change, how they get better, how they change their inherent styles and the voice evolves. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be able to be a part of that in such a interesting and almost voyeuristic way, but it's really cool because they're real people and they're growing just like we are. So it's a beautiful thing. Highly recommend an author deep dive challenge. Another way you can flip the TBR on its head is doing an anti-TBR challenge. So whatever you have on your TBR, maybe you have a ton of fantasy books, go read some nonfiction. Do the opposite. Maybe you have a ton of nonfiction on your TBR. Well, open your world and read a sci-fi book and try something completely crazy. Maybe you typically read really big, chunky books. Try a short story anthology. Try a book of poetry. all kinds of different things you can flip, so to speak. Not that books really have an opposite or a counterpart, but you can start figuring out what something counter would look like, how to balance that seesaw of the books you typically read with the ones that you don't. An anti-TBR challenge is super fun. Another fun way to get out of a reading slump and challenge yourself with your TBR is I call a critique challenge. So you take a book and instead of trying to read necessarily for pure enjoyment, maybe you take a dive and you look at the structure, the elements, the punctuation, the grammar, how everything comes together. And you're really critically thinking and critically looking at this book from a tactical and technical perspective. That might help reset your brain for your next book so you can really dig in with pleasure and enjoyment and not have to think about style and structure and all those things. So try a critique challenge. It's really fun when you start looking at a poetry book, for example, and seeing how the poems are structured, seeing the rhythmic cadence and all of those fun stylistic choices, especially in the poetry space or in short stories. Highly recommend this challenge. It's a great way to reset your mind when you're in a weird place with your TBR. So, what's the big picture here? We all have a list a mile long of books that we want to read, and we're probably never going to get to all the books in our lifetimes. And that's a beautiful thing. But by trying one of these challenges, you're allowing your mind to open, you're allowing your styles to broaden, and you never know what hidden gems you may find. I found the book genre classification to be so restricting and limiting, much like movies. There's so much crossover now as everything becomes more and more blended. Fantasy and romance are becoming their own genre, romantasy. We're getting a lot more sci-fi fantasy books. Genres that previously had really strict guardrails, those rails are getting taken down and lines are getting blurred. So these anti-TBR challenges, the non-traditional TBR, this is how you find those new books that satisfy that little dopamine gremlin in your mind that you wants that novelty and wants that adventure. So my challenge is to pick one of the things I recommended in this video or create something new. Challenge yourself in a new way to get rid of that TBR that's stressing you out and embrace it in a new and exciting way. I would love to know what you end up doing, so please drop a comment below. If you like this video, found a challenge you're going to try, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I really, really do appreciate it. Check out the Growth Library if you're interested in leveling up in health, wealth, and wellness. And until next time, happy reading and have an amazing day.